Hello, welcome back to OVERCOMM'D. It's been a week of interesting CS. I put it this way on Monday on Retake the Week. There's not been a lot of high-grade stuff for the fans to smoke up, really. There was 2 days of play, but now we're a bit further into the week. I think we have a lot more to discuss when it comes to the very top teams, the very top players, and of course, the very top events. It's not just little VRS Cups happening in fuck knows where between fuck knows who. Joining me, as they always do, is Thorin, the man who wrote the book on Poland and everything tourism related. And then, of course, Ted, the Bulgarian analyst supreme, the one who knows exactly who's going to win and for how much. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me again.
That makes it sound like match fixing. Listen, just because he's Bulgarian, you don't have to lean into that so heavily. You
want to tell me something? Is this always happens because we're from Bulgaria, man? What is going on?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm an excellent stereotyper. I will lean into it all.
No, you know what? It's stereotypes are there for a reason. I'm not even going to dispute it. Let's just not talk about it too much.
Okay, and I agree. You know what? Stigmas can really haunt you. Like, do you know how annoying it is when your whole country's accused of match fixing and you're trying to fix a bunch of matches? It really gets in the way, you know.
No, it's actually
the amount of dummy accounts he has to use now on all the betting websites.
Exactly. They have to like pretend they're Albanian now or something. You know the steps.
Yeah, truly honest people.
Yeah, I mean, what else can they do? Go legit or something? Well, anyway, now that we finished laughing at Ted's outrageous national scene.
No, the thing is, if I say something, I'm in big trouble.
Yeah, you can't say it either way. Yeah. You just have to go, all right.
Yeah, it's fair enough.
Yeah, we're going to be starting this week with a look at one of the stars of this PGL event so far, Kyousuke, who came into the scene, obviously, very strongly compared to a very specific player. He was seen as the next Donk. And look, the eye test on Kyousuke has always been fantastic. Like, no one's ever had any illusions about it. Like, you watch him aim, he's fantastic. I put him out there. His first bullet, like that initial aim, he might be better than Donk, just in that specific way. Like, in terms of what people consider aim, he might actually be better. But overall, you know, he wasn't a complete player. He wasn't as good at winning every single duel. He wasn't as good in his duel selection as well. I think that was pretty clear. But as time has gone on, he has really found a groove. And this year especially, 2026, he's been insane. He's so far carrying a 0.85 KPR, 23% multi-kill rate, 129 rating across these events that they've played so far. And in this group stage specifically, has been really impactful, really impressive. He's part of the reason why this team has gone straight 3-0 into playoffs. Guys, the question, very simple. Can Kyousuke catch Donk this year as far as matching his output, finally living up to that comparison? Or is this going to be an eternal goal he will never quite achieve as Donk keeps going from strength to strength? Is there any sort of comparison we can make where that kind of makes sense, like in terms of where he is in his career? You know, maybe there's some credit we can give him where we say, you know, maybe his team isn't built around him in the same way. Like, what is the take right now for Kyousuke? Can he catch Donk?
Ooh, in terms of how we can compare them and their output for the teams, I feel like one of the key things to be addressed first is that they are playing on teams that play a little bit of different approach of Counter-Strike. First, if you're starting it off with Donk, I think the easy way to put it, he's playing with a passive, very supportive AWPers, Shiro. You look at the side of Kyousuke, he's not playing with the same time of AWPer, meaning the game for the rifles is going to be a little bit different when you have m0NESY, who's a guy that loves taking initiative and being the X factor a lot of the time. In terms of the styles of the teams, it is interesting because this year so far, Kyousuke has been utilized as something close to a Donk, maybe to some extent. You look at the numbers of the attempted entries, they are a lot higher. He's been putting some world-class numbers in terms of efficiency on T-side openings. You're looking at over 30% attempts and over 50% success on these, which is usually the type of numbers that you will see out of Donk, the type of numbers that you would see out of Yakinder for the last 4 or 5 months of 2025 as well when he was on streak. So I think he's been going towards that direction. I'm not really sure if you could say that he can catch up with him this year, simply because of how outstandingly good Donk is. But the thing is, I feel like they're just on different teams. For Kyousuke, it's not needed for him to be on a 140, 150 rating. And I don't think, as much as Falcons are trying to give him a lot of space and make him a star player, I don't think he he has been given enough time. I mean, he hasn't had an entire year in Tier 1 Counter-Strike still, right? A whole year.
Yeah.
He joined in the last summer, right? And I feel like the progress that he's been making has been very good. Whether he's going to be able to catch up with Donk until the end of this year, maybe if we are counting the team into consideration, and if Falcons keep on, dealing with some of the choking issues, and they keep going deep into events, and they provide him with the opportunities. And on the other side, if Donk just needs to give half the year to Magix to get used to being the IGL and for that new system of Spirit to start working, then maybe there could be a way that these things equal themselves out in terms of the numbers at least. But in terms of the pure impact, even though Kyousuke has been playing great, don't get me wrong, I'm still trying to come up with or trying to decide for myself whether I believe if everybody else is playing on the same level that usually the Spirit team plays, and Donk is still able to go for the deep run and just put them on his back, if Kyousuke can do the same deeper into events if he's not receiving any support. Because in the end of the day, so far this year, Nico's been playing much better than he did last year, bar a couple off maps. But in general, I think he's been very solid. I think Monacy's been doing a good job, even though obviously it's not near the level of being called the best player in the world, which he probably was for like 1 or 2 months last year. So I think there still is a difference between the two of them, but it doesn't really change the fact that Kyousuke is becoming better and better for the last couple of months. I mean, the start of this year has been great, as you pointed out. He's been good on T sides, he's been good on CT sides, he's been very consistent. T side consistency wise, actually, maybe a little bit better than Donk. But that also comes in with the asterisks that probably Spirit and Magix's playbook is not as developed on the offensive side of things. So I feel like we have to take this one with a pinch of salt.
I actually think, if anything, the whole Donk comparison actually haunts him. Like, even though it's probably one of the only times, I'm not a big fan generally of the whole, you're the next Simple. Like I said, there's only one person ever deserved that title, it was Monacy. So the whole you're the next Donk, mate, we've only just had one Donk, and it's insane that even happened. So I don't know that there actually is a next one. You're just making too big a comparison. So my problem is this. The reason why he's not Donk, and why it's actually, I think, why that harms his conversation, because I noticed this when Ziwu came along, and all people did was compare Ziwu and Simple. It eventually starts to get that if you ever listen to the Simple fans, some of them have gone too far the other way, and they're doing that whole there's not even any comparison, and ones where you're like, well, you're just being whack now, mate. You might not like the other guy's style of play, but he's obviously fucking an excellent player though, isn't he? And it is a valid comparison. So the problem I think you have with the Donk one is that at the moment that isn't that valid a comparison, and here's why. Because the thing about Donk that is actually impossible, I've never seen a single player in the history of Counter-Strike do this, is Donk is the only player I've never seen who never did have some sort of drop off when he goes to the playoffs, or if he's in a final, or if it's a major, or if it's a prestige event. It's like he just doesn't get it. He just thinks every game's just every game. Whereas every other player, including Kyousuke, Kyousuke in a random group stage game against anyone could be mega. But if you put him in the playoffs, he immediately gets worse, or he immediately has issues adapting, and he hasn't yet had the same big pop-offs. And listen, it's maybe not as noticeable. By the way, it probably helps that he has fucking Monacy and Nico, who tend to chalk prestige events in his team, so we're not looking at him as much. And we give, the difference is, much like Molodoi last year, we do give him a little bit of extra breathing room because we know he's a rookie and he hasn't been in this position. In fact, I'd even say he deserves more wiggle room than a Molodoi. Molodoi is 21 years old. So this kid is also Donkest. Comes how young he is. But that's still the thing about Donk that's mental. I don't know if people know. I think Donk's 19 now, by the way. It's still insane how young he is. And think of this, right? Just to make the comparison of how extreme Donk's failure to chalk is compared to anyone else. You can even remember it. So in 2024, there was the Copenhagen Major. He didn't even chalk. He just wasn't insane. And then they had the one event, which was the Cologne. Everyone remembers where they came last place. It was really bad. And that one event he sucked, and no joke, ever since then, now we don't even think about was Donk chalky in the game when they lose. Yeah. You just assume, and you're right, they probably if not carried, semi-carried, and then they just maybe had a half that was bad, or the opponent did well against him, or the opponent had 2 or 3 stars that matched him. In the modern day, we don't. The problem is Kyousuke is still in the more beginner part of his career, as Donk should have had, but Donk didn't because he's just such an insane player. I'd even say, by the way, I know what you mean about the aim angle. This is something I remember when I watched a bunch of his POVs before he joined Falcons, telling people, it'll sound mad because you'll think if you watch Donk play, this player has the best aim ever. But I actually do think Kyousuke has mildly better aim. I mean, I've got a good way to phrase it like this, right? I do think that someone like Simple, someone like Donk, their aim doesn't even make sense, because normally
Yeah.
the thinking in CS is if you have really fast aim, it's going to be inconsistent because it's going to be streaky. But if you have really slow aim, it's going to be super consistent. So classically, that would have been the difference between, like, I don't know, pick someone like Chris J and Nico or something, you know. Chris J would be all flicky all over the place, but he wouldn't hit everything. And Nico would be super slow, but you'd never miss. If he ever locks on you, you're dead 100%. The difference with like Donk and Simple is they fire so fast, and it doesn't even look like there's an aiming process. They actually look like bots that just lock on you, and it just, the cross edge goes on you and kills you. So as a result, that actually doesn't look as smooth, in my opinion, in the aiming style. As Kyousuke, to me, is more in the like Ziwu Nico thing, where they have that beautiful smooth tracking. The crosshair goes onto you. It looks really graceful. They hit every shot still, by the way. So I actually can see why some people actually do think skill-wise he's underrated. I do think he's fabulously talented. And I actually think if Donk didn't exist, by the way, we'd have a really interesting convo, because who would be the best riflers right now? It would be the Yakindars, the Keseratos, the fucking Exertions, the Rops. By the way, if you bring a rookie Kyousuke in that conversation, all he got to do is get a bit of playoff reps, and he's right in that mix, mate. He could be like, you know, fifth best rifler in the world or something. The real problem he has is Donk exists and is sort of casting a shadow over all of CS. And then the last thing, when you were saying about, like, essentially, can they just do what they did in Spirit, and to some degree in Spirit Academy, where you play around him, right? The problem I have is this. One, I actually think that's where Ziwu fans have absolutely fucking embarrassed themselves and pissed all over their own faces. This whole narrative that, like, Spirit just sets Donk up and then he just does like 3Ks all the time, like, it just doesn't even make sense, mate. Like, there's no flashbang makes you hit the left mouse button in that way, or aim that way, or have that instinct to get that kill. So you could set any player up like that, they wouldn't be able to do Donk things. And I'll just say this last example, right? I don't even think that in Spirit they ever sat down from day one and did that. I think that just naturally evolved to be the most obvious, efficient playing style. I'll give you a quick example. So my favourite football player classically is obviously Cristiano Ronaldo. Think about early on in his career, he literally was a left winger who just came into the team, and what happened was, it was like something, he tripped over and he was just too good, so eventually he just did whatever he wanted in the team, mate. He wasn't really the left winger, he could be the striker, took every free kick. Like, the joke is, if you're good enough, eventually other people, this is why I've always said, it's not that I think Nico and his teams tells people play like this. I think if you play with Nico, you eventually just fit his playing style. It just becomes obvious that's how we should play, because that's like top of the path of least resistance. So I think Kyousuke's problem is this. I don't think in a team with Monacy and Nico, you're ever even going to sit down and think, how could we make Kyousuke like more like Donk, or could he ever? I don't think that conversation will ever happen, unfortunately. So you can even add that detail in. Another tricky part he has in his team is, I imagine if you gave Donk a Nico and a Monacy type player, I also imagine he wouldn't play exactly the same style. You know, I imagine he'd adapt his game, and maybe he wouldn't have as much raw output. So I also think it might be impossible to beat Donk in this team.
Yeah, that's a really real concern, because you look at, for example, just using the numbers, right? We got CT side opening attempt rate. Kyousuke will never be able to take the number of attempts Donk does, because he plays with Monacy, because it obviously makes sense to them. Monacy's been ridiculously efficient on those as well this year. Like, that's been a big part of their game, and he's just generally an amazing, sort of aggressive, assertive, space-taking, space-claiming AWPer. And so you would let him do it. You would let him do it 100% of the time. But the reason I wanted to have this conversation as well is there's some more advanced stats that have been intriguing me in terms of Kyousuke's rise and some of the things he's been doing really well. For example, Ted, you kind of touched on this. T-side, Donk's had a few inconsistencies this year.
Yeah.
Quite importantly, Kyousuke, not only is he taking a ridiculous amount of openings, when you look at just the HLTV stats, you know, as we said, over 30% attempt rate, over 50% success rate, just not something people can do at all.
No.
Like, generally, it's not possible. But if you go into the advanced numbers, like you go into Edge, you filter just for full buys. He's taking 35% openings, and he's winning them at near 65% rate. Like, he's around 60%, 61%, something like that. It is absurd. Like, T-side with an AK, he's going out there on over a third of rounds and just winning opening duels. So he's been absurd at these things, which are just, like, for me, indicators that he's taken another step. Like, sure, he was always this talented last year, and we saw glimpses of it that were outstanding. Like, his debut event with the team, we saw the aim on full display, he dropped a 125 rating. The team were bad, but he was hitting everything, even in round losses, even in half buys, and some of that's still showing now. Like, we see him on the Deagle. He's one of the few players who can come close to matching Donk's output with a Deagle, because Donk famously, for his entirety of his prime, basically has been with a Deagle as effective as every other player in the scene with a rifle when facing a full buy, which is crazy, but just is the reality of the ADR he has, the KPR he has. Kyousuke is the closest one to matching it right now, and he's just filthy. So I do think there's a case to be made for him, as far as you put it, Thorin, like, if we didn't have Donk, we'd be talking about Kyousuke in like this incredible way. Like we'd be glazing him like no tomorrow. I mean, even currently, if you just look at the top players from these top events we've played so far, it's Daewoo and Donk, two, three other AWPers, and the only rifler in sniffing distance of these sorts of players' output is Kyousuke. Like it's just Kyousuke up there with them. Flamesy's got a nice rating. He's not even close to their KPR, their multi-kill rate, their opening kill impact. Like, they're just separating themselves from the pack. And I think, whilst Kyousuke is a part of that sort of second group of three behind the top two right now, I think he's entering, and this is why I feel a bit of remorse that I didn't set this up as a superstar silo segment. I think he's entered that conversation of legitimately being a superstar, not just, and it's crazy to have that conversation when he's on a team loaded with such big names.
Yeah.
But he could just be a superstar right now with these
stats.
stats.
Don't you think that's part of why, if you go and ever track the timing, they claim now that in G2 the whole time, maybe Nico was like the secondary caller anyway, and maybe one day he was thinking about it just like Hunter. But you'll notice it's actually after Kyousuke joined Falcons that suddenly Nico himself in interviews was making comments like, maybe I become the in-game leader, and Hunter's like, if he ever switches, it'll be immediate. I think that's because one day, if you track the trajectories, that's to me how Nico ends his career as a star player. Yeah. Kyousuke just keeps getting better and better this year. At some point this year, if they haven't won enough and you're Nico, an obvious move, I mean, Yanko even suggested it on Twitter, is the reason why the Nico to IGL move works is, one, you've sort of got the next Nico. By the way, next Nico for Kyousuke, way better angle than next Donk. That's a way more plausible trajectory. You can even do that. And then also, if you do that as Falcons, you get a double up, don't you? Because you get to keep Nico's skills to some degree. So you're not doing two signings, you're doing one signing probably. And then you can even choose who you kick out. Kickstand can go against. You can decide how you figure it out. So I do even think that's what Falcons are thinking of, which, by the way, is somewhat ties in what we said at the end there. Maybe in this squad, you can't be a Donk because you've got too many superstars and you're all mega players and you're all, by the way, mostly even aggressive players in the team. Yeah. But if Nico became just an IGL, suddenly there'd be a lot more space open up, mate.
Yeah, there probably will be. It's an interesting conversation as well, because I think it's kind of like what G2 tried to do when they brought in Malps to replace Nico when he would leave, but Falcons could have the opportunity to do it in a better way, where Nico becomes the IGL. And now a lot of people are probably going to be concerned about that because of what happened on the phase when Karrakin got kicked and Nico was the IGL. But one thing to be taken into consideration is that it's been 8 years.
It was 8 years ago. Exactly.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Nico was a lot younger, probably a lot more fond of losing his temperament every now and then. He's definitely learned a lot. And also another key factor is that Nico will get to IGL 2 of the players that he single-handedly has had the opportunity to guide and create this tier 1 players. And when I say create, I don't mean he's the only reason they're that good, but he's one of the reasons that m0NESY was able to, implement himself. And they've always had that dynamic of a big
reason.
Big brother.
Shall I tell you the most based reason ever why Nico should be an IGL?
Sure.
Because he'd be the only IGL in history who would give the star player the AK so he could use the deagle. It's all there. Think about it. He's the only one where that solves itself day one. Dear one, Zeus, why would you want that AK, you prick? I'll never forgive you. They still burned him a brain every one of those rounds. Edward and Zeus had the AK. It's like, that's not, even though that's 10 years ago now, but whatever.
You just know. You're like, if I played the Deagle, I have a 0.001% chance to kill. If Simple holds it, he's got a 50% chance. So I'm going to get the AK and we're both going to have a 50% chance to get a kill. But back to Kyousuke, I think one of the easiest ways to actually see that this guy has progressed over the course of the last couple of months is, do you remember how when he joined the team initially, he had less than 10 officials played on Inferno on Spirit Academy, and a lot of people were concerned. Initially, he was the A rifle, the short guy rotation.
Stats were terrible on that map. It was easily
exactly.
Yes.
They had to change the roles. They had to put him on B. They had to shift Nico back from Banana for the first time in a shit amount of years to go back and play A and be the rotation rifle. Kyousuke was put on B just to make life easier. So far, since the start of this year, now they haven't played 50,000 Infernos, but he is the highest rated Inferno player on this team by a milestone, right? You're looking at a 152. m0NESY is the second one on a 126. And I'm not usually, I don't want to be the guy that just reads out the stats, but when you compare these stats to the ones from when he joined the team on the same map, you can clearly tell that he's been doing a better job. So, I honestly don't like the comparison Kyousuke v Donk. I think it's a very interesting head-to-head. I like to imagine that Kyousuke can be his own character, Donk can be his own character, because I do agree, I think they are different. The way that they aim, the way that, even if the stats are saying that they're aggressive in the same way and that they have similar entry attempts and everything, when you look at both the players, even on the micro level, you can clearly tell they're not the same guy. If you put Donk on Spirit, you put Donk on Falcons, he's probably not going to play the same way that Kyousuke is. And if you put Kyousuke on Spirit, he's probably not going to be doing the same for Spirit that Donk is, right? That's at least how I feel about it. So I think it's an exciting conversation. But again, Donk, even though he's very young, he's had 2 years, 3 years now on Tier 1 Counter-Strike. Kyousuke's had less than 1. So I think you give him a little bit more time. Maybe he's going to become even better. Who knows? It's a very exciting conversation. But I do agree that we need to see, some of that. It's interesting because both teams have their issues, right? So we need to see some of the issues resolved if we want to see the peak performance from one side against the peak performance from the other, and then get the head-to-head. Falcons will need to stop choking, and Spirit will need to, I guess, figure out what's going on with the structure of the team with Magix as the IGO.
Yeah, the leadership conversation will be interesting in that team. It remains a big mystery, really, how they're going to resolve everything and figure it all out, because we demand certain results of teams with this level of player on it. And well, for Spirit, at times, it feels like we talk about it just being Donk single-handed, but still, with guys like Shiro, with guys like Tanir, yeah, we want to see more winning. And we want to see Kyousuke actually get a real chance, because the last event we saw them play in Krakow, they didn't even make playoffs. Like, they choked before fucking playoffs.
We need to just accept this as the real roster and judge them accordingly. Because I'm sick of this team just being like, Monacy doesn't turn up for a map, Nico chokes in like a 12-12 game, Kyousuke doesn't do as well in the playoffs because he's inexperienced, and then they all get back in that dressing room and go, Tessas, you idiot, why did you do it again, you asshole? And it's like, that's like an abusive family, mate. He's got to get out of there. It's just a bad state of affairs for everyone. Either we just accept this roster or we're going to make a roster move. Everything cannot just be blamed on Kicks and Sonic and fucking Tessas. Come on, boys. I do think if you sign these players and you are making like a super team of talents, this is like the 3 frontline they have. If you think of it like football, it's unbelievable. They should be scoring all the goals in this analogy. So I do still think like people give them a break. Like I stopped giving this team a break once Kyousuke got settled in, mate. Like you chose this roster. You had 3 transfer windows to get a bid type anchor play. You didn't do it, so you obviously chose not to do it. We have to just accept these results now, which is why actually the Kyousuke angle is exciting, because whereas Nico and Monacy, it's unlikely they're even going to go up 5%. We've seen the peaks of their game. Kyousuke actually does have a bit extra he can still unlock, which is why it's kind of a cool conversation, because if you look how he's playing now, this alone could win them some trophies, mate. They don't have to fix all the fundamentals and all that shit.
Yeah, and that's
it's very funny. It's like looking at PSG, it's like looking at PSG with Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe and being like, oh, Hakimi, what are you doing, man? We're losing the games because of you. It's just ludicrous, right? Yeah. And if you ask a lot of people that actually watch the games, I mean, Kickson is one of the frag in IGLs, and actually one of the IGLs that's willing to take chances and take risks, which I quite frankly find refreshing to see out of him. And then Tessas, I think, has been solid. I mean, he's changed his role probably 5 times since he joined that organization just to make everyone happy. So is it really fair to blame it on these guys if some of the stars are underperforming? Well, maybe it could be a deeper team issue, but I just don't buy into the fact that you need to just get 2 more stars or 2 more guys that are going to be a 120 rating for the team to win. It's like even Vitality don't have all of their players on 120 rating.
Oh, typically they have 1, maybe 2 for an event. But no, we'll have to see. I think the trajectory has been very promising for Kyousuke. It's just, if he keeps getting better and better, going from strength to strength, but in every key game anyway, they don't somehow get enough output, it's going to be one of the most tilting conversations to have for the rest of the year. But speaking of tilting, irritating, things that have been difficult to talk about this year, AWPers. We've brought it up. We've discussed the stats behind it, the deflation, I guess, that's been happening in Rating 3.0. But generally, I want to have a little check-in. Take a look at the scene, take a look at what we've got, and decide who are the top 10 AWPers right now. Right now, specifically. They are...
Well, we're going to do a list like the other one where we did.
Yes, exactly. We've got the list on screen. I will send you to a quick screenshot of the names available. I've made the decision to not include anyone from Tier 2. It was very difficult for me. I was desperate to make this a conversation about guys like Klim and Grix, but then I realized no one else is watching them and no one else gives a shit.
You'd really pick Klim and Grix out of the Tier 2 AWPers.
Tomorrow,
this
is
you know what? This is not a conversation to be had right now. This is not a conversation to be had right now. But we can address
the flag
that
is showing
on.
itself again. But anyway, let's get into this because yes, I've just included a bunch of players who played actually tier 1 play. I've ignored the tier 2 guys that could have been included as potential promotions, just because there's no basis upon which to compare them really at this point directly to say a definitive top 10 list. But yeah, we have the names in front of us. Special shout out to Sizzy for making this list. Has a better AWP KPR than 90% of the guys beneath him. Of the guys on the list, he's like top 6 because he's played one event, played a bunch of maps, and actually played decently. So he's made the list just in terms of the speculative options. But yeah, let's start it off with the most important question. The question that, well, the sort of question where we might answer it and create a whole wave of new comments. Number 1. Are we happy to right now, currently in state of play right now, have ZywOo as our number 1?
Oui.
Because that's
the obvious problem here is I've always considered him an AWPer, but then his fans do that thing of like, but he uses the AK half the time, and he does actually have bad stats in terms of like, obviously Mordor uses the AWP way more, but I agree. I actually think it should just be ZywOo. It is right now.
It should be. I mean, we literally in the last episode had the conversation about how easy he makes the game look when he's opening right, how efficient he is, how easy he's making all these kills for himself, and even if he doesn't, do that necessarily for all the duels, he can still compensate with a great individual level. He has to be the number 1 right now.
All right, good. Very glad we're all on the same page there. Nothing to really be too controversial about. Because, yeah, look, I didn't have him as my AWPer of the year last year. This year has been a very different year so far. He's been far more active with the AWP, far more impactful with the AWP, and generally just use the AWP more. So, yeah, ZywOo for me straight away is the number 1. And after that, we can start having an interesting conversation. Molodoi, m0NESY, Shiro. These are the guys we expect to fill out our top 3 with. Who's got a big opinion here? Anything you'd consider controversial is
My problem is this, I assume we are just talking total package, like take out like who's on their teams. Just if you were to put these people in 10 random matches, one in a group stage, one in a final, one in a major, who would overall be the best? Because my problem with this is, right, I think that Molodoi has a really good eye test. Like he looks awesome when he's rolling with the AWP. Also, by the way, he easily forces the AWP the most of any player I've seen in CS. Like you'd have to go back years and years to some like really cynical, like I don't know, Exapower and fucking Force or something. Like they just he also buys glass cannon all the time. Like his stats of AWP kills versus rifle kills are bonkers compared to everyone else. He clearly just hard forces it. Whereas the difference is we talked on past episodes. Actually, nearly all the top AWPers now have a pretty good rifle. Even Shiro has an underrated rifle. Actually, all these players will use it when necessary, and obviously on certain T sides. So I think the problem is for me, Molodoi. I think that's just a fan take where they want him number 2. I want m0NESY number 2. I think the difference is maybe Molodoi looks good in big games or whatever, but he looked like shit in that fucking Krakow final. But okay, we'll ignore that for the moment. The problem m0NESY has is he only looks bad in their elimination games. Aside from that, he actually does smurf most of the games. Like you even seen it right now at this PGL. Like I think m0NESY is just outrageous. The only person I think is better is ZywOo.
Yeah, I'm willing to agree on that. I feel like, especially if we're talking about an up-to-date, who is the best AWPer today, we just had one of them play a big final where he allegedly should have had the opportunity to pop off a little bit more. His team even wins the first map. He has a big clutch. The confidence goes up. You're expecting him to take over the game, and he's got the right devices to do so. It's not like he just played map 1 where he's 5-20, right? Where mentally he could be beaten down, and then he dropped the ball. When it comes down to m0NESY, I think it is weird because we have seen him, as you pointed out. Both of them do seem to have a similar issue where Molodoi is not going to be able to step it up for the entirety of a game where it's very important and they need to win a trophy or progress further. And then with m0NESY, it's just that elimination map or 2 maps in a series where he's just going to disappear. But I do agree. I think m0NESY is a little bit better. I mean, not only because of the numbers, because I think obviously the eye test for Molodoi is great, but all around in terms of probably the impact that m0NESY has in the mid round, how communicative he is. We know that he's someone that demands a lot out of his teammates as well. And he is someone that's going to help arrange the play on CT sides, especially around himself, which is something that every AWPer should be doing. But I would imagine that Molodoi is not doing it to the same extent, considering, he's not been on this level for such a long time, whereas m0NESY is already a world-class player in every aspect, right? Not only in terms of how good he actually is skill-wise in the video game. So, yeah, I'd say right now, today, if I had to pick a team and be like, you need to put the best AWPer, but you can't pick ZywOo, who are you getting on your team? I'd go for m0NESY, 100%.
Yeah, no, everything Molodoi does really well, pretty much m0NESY does. Like, there's very little missing from Muncie's game that Molodoi has. And then on the other side of things, the big negatives of Molodoi, the negative part of it being the inconsistency, and also the fact that if he's low, Furia can't win. Muncie has some similar traits, but it's less extreme. It's less frequent. So the highs are higher, the lows are lower. Yeah, Muncie, for me, is number 2. He was my number 1 last year, and this year he's barely a tick below that. Like he's been slightly worse maybe, but overall he's still fantastic.
Wait, when people do that whole like Molodoi is better than Monacy angle, or what I would genuinely ask them, and obviously they'd have to answer honestly, not be a dickhead, but let's assume they could in good faith answer. The obvious question, like you sort of implied there, is if we're starting a team tomorrow and you can only pick one AWPer whose name begins with M, which one are you picking? And if they tell me they're picking Molodoi, I just don't believe you, because I'm sorry, you'd have to have a lot of the other players from Furia, in my opinion, to have this set up and make it work. Like the difference is, I think Monacy is also one of those players you could just drop in any team and he just does that, mate. He's one of those rare players where they would just play like this in any squad he wanted, And right now he's still slap bang, either in the middle of his peak or about to peak, one of the two.
Yeah, if he's about to peak, Lord heaven save us.
I'm just being reasonable. In case
there's that little voice in my head that just appeared. I was like, there's going to be a French fan that says Maka. Which AWPer are you going to pick? But yeah, no, I think also for Monacy is just the fact that he's the type of player that makes probably some of his teammates and the team function better around him. Whereas with Molodoi, he's probably, far from that level, and it's completely understandable what we were talking about today. And also, because a lot of people are probably going to come out and say, yes, but Monacy has choked in more important games than Molodoi. Well, he's been playing on this level for 5 years. How long has Molodoi been around for? And he's already had the opportunity to choke twice in important events. First at the major where Furia was the favorite, then in Krakow where Furia was the second favorite probably for the event. So if you're talking about, quantity of events, I'd say the percentage of Monacy is a little bit better even, because a lot of the important games that they were losing on G2 back in the days, it was actually people that would look at Nico and saying, well, Nico's choking right now. Monacy's actually playing great, but he can't carry those guys. And I don't feel like we've had that issue necessarily with Furia. I think it's more if the team is just not functioning and things are not working out, it's kind of the same for everyone. I can't really recall too many examples where Molodoi is still going to have a 28-10 map, but everyone else is going to be so bad that they can't get it over the line, which has happened a bunch of times to Monacy. But I think it's just apparently we're all in the same opinion, which I'm happy about.
Yeah, there's not much to debate here, because even people who have this take that Monacy is a choker, did you start watching halfway through 2025? Like 2024, he finishes above Zywoo in HLT's ranking because of his big game and playoffs and arenas. And he was fantastic in those games just a year removed. He just had a really bad year with Falcons. And even then, it wasn't always necessarily the worst sort of big arena games. It's just they got eliminated in puzzling ways from different events.
I always used to say, I could always tell who's only watching the last match, which to be fair, if it's the playoff game, could be the most important match, because they would always go, oh, Monacy fucking sucks right now. Then I'd go to that page, the stats page on HLTV, and he'd be like 5th ranked for the whole event. I'd be like, he can't really suck, can he? Like, he was bad in that match, but logically, if he did shit in that match, imagine how good he is in the rest of the matches to make the rating average out of that at the end. Like, he must be smurfing.
Yeah. Also, I think one of the last things we can add to this is how many times have you heard someone say or feel like Molodoi is the best player in the world, even when people were saying that he's one of the best playing AWPers in the world last year in the span of a couple of months? And how many times over the course of the last couple of years have you felt like when you're watching Monacy, you actually are watching the best player in the world? Sure, it's been inconsistent. It's been for like 1 or 2 months. But I think all of us have felt that way when watching Monacy. I haven't personally felt that way when watching Molodoi. I felt that he's great. I'm not saying he's bad, but I've never felt like he's the number one. And I've watched Monacy when Donk was active and has been active and been like, well, I think this guy is better than Donk.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm on the same page pretty much. Let's get into. I think actually there is supposed to be a debate here. We've not talked about Shiro yet. Like I talked about him as one of the top 4. When you look at pretty much every number, he should be above Molodoi.
Well, this is the interesting part, Kingt. That's what I was wondering, because I was waiting when you're the one who pitted it. I was like, Molodoi, Monacy for number 2, and I was like, well, I've got some bad news for you, mate, because I actually think even though fans are going to hate it, here's why this one sucks if you're a fan. Because if you don't care about numbers and you don't care about like how roles people play in a team, different styles of play, etc., what you do as a fan is you think of it like if you were playing a POG, like an FPL game or a matchmaking, right? If you were the AWPer in that game who plays like Shiro, there's no way you're as good good as the Molodoi AWPer because you're a pussy. Like, you just fucking, you play cynical angles and you won't go for the aggressive play and you save whenever it's right. The problem is, though, Shiro doesn't do that in the same way as your Beatty AWPer in the matchmaking game does. He does that at like an insanely high level where I always say this, like, he's a player where I think of him like I did with Device back in the day, where it's like, mate, I would love this if I was the coach, if this is my AWPer. Like, he never does any, like, fucking, never throws the AWPer away stupidly, never takes, like, unnecessary chances. By the way, one thing I think he's mad underrated for Shiro is it's clearly actually, much like Device, an actual playing style choice. Like, this guy can hit mega fast fucking flick shots with the AWP. Like, his raw skills are nuts. Like, this is one of those guys where I'm pretty sure if you actually put, like, fucking Torji's brain into Shiro's body, he'd be like he'd be contending for number one on this list, mate. Like, his skills are nuts. It's just he chooses to play this like hyper conservative style. But I actually think it's underrated. So the problem here is this: like, if you want to use like a sports analogy, in Molodoi, we're taking some like really fucking up and coming, like super fucking attacking midfielder who scores like worldies from outside the box, and then we're comparing him to some like boring fucking, you know, mega defensive midfielder who never loses the ball and always fucking. Now, to a casual fan, they're gonna go, I want the fucking attacking midfielder, but it depends what you value, doesn't it? Because I do think Shiro's actually an underrated AWPer. I think he's very good.
Yeah, I'd be willing to go for Prime Busquets over some of the newer generation guys. I think it's a very valid point to be making. Obviously, it comes in with a bit of an asterisk in terms of the stats, because I do think Molodoi being a little bit more aggressive, it puts him in a position where he's not going to have the same statistics as Shiro.
I'm with you.
Yeah, Shiro's going to stay alive a little bit more. He's not going to die as many times. He's going to save the AWP, so he's going to have it in more rounds, maybe. He's going to have it on, let's say, a half buy or an eco for everybody else, where he saved it from the previous round. He gets an opening pick, but then saves it again. So in terms of the ratings, I think it's very difficult to use them to compare to AWPers that have such different styles. But in terms of, again, the contribution, for me at least, I'm a fan of the Shiro style, even though it's very unappealing for highlights and stuff like this. But when you think about it, Shiro's always been the guy that has been making the game a lot easier for his rifles. And then when he's left in a clutch, most of the time you're like, well, this guy, if they give him a chance, he can win it, right? But even if you want to look at Gambit and Gambit youngsters and Cloud9 and all of that, he was with a very proactive in-game leader. He had a bunch of aggressive rifles on the team. He had a bunch of people he needed to open up space with or for. Now on Spirit, he has Donk, and now the idea is that he needs to give Tenier even more space, and he's still one of the highest rated AWPers in the world on a team that has not even been winning as much. I just think the impact that he's bringing to the table is very, very high. And again, I don't want to reuse that argument, but again, he's more experienced. Again, he's probably a little bit more vocal than Molodoi is, right? So it is different in terms of what you value in an AWPer and what a team needs, because I think Furia wouldn't necessarily benefit from having someone like Shiro.
That's pointed out on the last point as well. Yeah. You can't be the Molodoi supporter and go, well, your guy chokes. It's like, who are you to say that? Your guy has only choked in the biggest moments. By the way, I'm sorry, I am fucking Chengdu, and like shit like Pro League is not the fucking major, mate. Like, also, this guy had only a few chances and he failed so far. It's not our fault.
Yeah.
I'm with you. She want to see I've choked. Absolutely. It's real. Yeah.
But mentally, I think it's more difficult to beat the Shiro AWPer, by the way.
I agree.
Because your AWP shots just have a lot more weight to them. Because if you're a Molodoi, you just get to have a spawn, you go and peek, and even if you die, your teammates are still in a 4v5 and they can potentially win the round. What happens if they had an aggressive play with Tenier and Donk and Magix or whatever who wanted to run in, and then you're left in a 2v3 or a 2v4, and if you're Shiro, you just know, okay, I have to hit the first shot, get out of dodge, go second position, hit second shot, dodge flashes, hit third shot, and maybe then we can win the round. But if I make one wrong step, the round is lost because the play of my guys didn't work. So I think there's more pressure being an AWPer like this.
Yeah, I think you're both wrong, actually. I think you're both entirely wrong.
Okay.
All right.
Look, it's very easy to go, yeah, Molodoi's choked in plus. He has choked in plus. Shiro, not only has barely made them, he's been just shit. There was no choke involved. He never had a great series. In the last 6 months, he hasn't had a great series. Like, can you remember a great Shiro series? I remember Donk being fantastic and wondering, is Shiro, has he fucking connected to the server? He has disappeared in these games. So it's all well and good saying he's got to leave space. But at some point, if I'm calling you the third best AWPer in the world, take some fucking space. And he hasn't. He's completely disappeared from the Spirit roster, who have been in desperate need of some damn help. Like, they need someone to help. Because if he's so experienced and so vocal, can he chime the fuck in and say, I will do something? Because this has been dire from Shiro in playoffs. Sometimes they're not even making playoffs, but when he has been in playoffs, he's just been absent. And I'd rather have Molodoi. Even when he chokes, I know he's there. when he's having a bad map, his rating's low, he's there. He's trying things. He's pulling the rabbit out the hat. And sometimes, sure, he snaps its neck because he does it a bit violently, but he's still doing it. He's still trying the tricks. He's still trying to make some magic happen. And he's just coming out with better stats, better results, big wins. He did play 3 fantastic maps against Vitality in a grand final on a big stage. It's not the major, but goddamn, is it still important. So I would rather have Moldoy at 3. I'm actually would defend the boy. Like, he has been wizardly, sorry.
Well,
in the
unfortunately
last
for
6
you,
months.
you've created a democratic system.
I have
you will
indeed.
now experience the flaw of a democratic system.
I just needed it
2
out
versus
there,
1 wins, unfortunately.
Right.
So,
I just
No,
needed
I
it out
mean,
there.
the playoff argument is interesting, but do you really think that Shiro played badly against Furia in Krakow? Like, do you believe he played badly? Because I think especially on the first map, which was Mirage, I think he oped Molodoi. Then
Sure.
the second map, Spirit win 13-8 on Dust 2, and he was, I thought, good enough. And Molodoi didn't have a great game on the other side, and Shiro was still, I think, what was it, like 4-1 in opening fights, and Molodoi is 4-4, which I'd say, I mean, it's less attempts, but he still provided what he needed to.
Now
and
reach
then
the problem.
obviously they. Sorry.
Now you reach map 3. I'm just saying the problem with this whole debate where Moldoy plays a flawless nuke to eliminate Shiro. That's your problem.
No,
right
but
there.
that's fair. But I can counter you. Do you know
With
when
what?
Shiro had? How many rounds did you see Shiro on an op on nuke? Because I can tell you for a fact how
thought he was a good
Spirit
rifler. I don't
started. They started. We're talking about who are the best 10 OPers right now, not the best 10 all-around players that happen to play with the OP every now and then.
Okay.
And he started 0-6 on the CT side of nuke with no money. And he
Well,
had,
here's the problem.
what?
The sad part is this, Ted. In that sense, though, in a way, Kingt wins, though. Here's why. Because essentially, I am sort of arguing Shiro is a better player than Molodoi, but as an AWPer, maybe Molodoi is a better AWPer. Do you know what I mean? I don't hate that split the difference sort of thing, you know?
You know what's the thing?
If it's only as
do
an AWPer,
believe-
we're ignoring rifles and everything else.
Sure. I do believe the ceiling of Molodoi is higher in terms of pure skill, but I do believe up to this day, Shiro is doing team-wise a little bit more for his team, even though Molodoi is an X-Factor guy. I just think Shiro's very unappreciated in what he does on Spirit.
By the way, I also do agree he is worse in playoffs, definitely.
Yeah, worse than Molodoi is the problem. Not worse than his own numbers. Both, I mean, most players not completely
of course.
stupidly unhuman are worse in playoffs. That's fine.
Yeah,
it's
of
just
course.
there's levels. And there's also the very real factor that he's just disappeared in the last, I'm not talking the last event. I'm going back 6 months. I haven't seen him. I just haven't seen him. So there is a real problem for me with having Shiro at 3. Now, if I'm still down 2-1 in the vote after my ever so compelling case, so be it. And we'll have them 3-4, unless someone wants to make an absolutely absurd case for Hypex right now. But there is your 3-4 otherwise.
I'm not changing.
I don't mind either way. I could go either way on this one. Because
Yeah,
again, it is
I don't think it's that big of a difference.
That's the problem. If it's only the AWPing component, I don't hate the Molodoi angle.
I honestly feel like it's a 50-50. I'll stay with Shiro just because that was my initial opinion, but I don't think
Well, in
it's
that case,
it's a biggie.
logically, we have to take your cues from Shiro if you like him and live to fight another day. Save on this one and just be number 4 and be safe. And then Molodoi gets to be number 3 because he's aggressive enough to at least go for it. There you go. I've used their whole personalities to explain it.
Yeah, he goes and he actually takes the win. That's okay. No dog to help you on this list. Right. We then have the very awkward discussion of the rest of this, because we've been talking about these 4 players as the AWPers of the moment, the elite AWPers, the ones that are untouchable, the ones that are fantastic, that prove that the AWP isn't broken. Number 5. Now, at the end of last year, when I did my AWPer of the year conversation, I made a top 5. I had Wonderful at 5.
Yeah.
Now,
That's fair.
2026 has happened so far. Like, we're about a month and a half in. I'm not exactly too excited about Wonderful being the 5th best AWPer in the world. Are either of you particularly excited about anyone, or do you think anyone's had such a quality start to the year that it's worth having their name here at number 5?
Is the idea that it is expressly only supposed to be for 2026? We're only counting from the beginning of the year.
No, we're just being very biased towards 2026. I mean, as I said with Model Shiro, I was going back at least 6 months. Like, I'm taking in history. It's a rich tapestry, as one analyst always says. But it's also a bit of recency bias. I would admit, for me, there has got to be some recency bias in this, but you can go back as far as you want. If you want to make an some bias case, try.
I wouldn't say for number 5. I actually had a different person in mind. I think it's a very that's the thing though. If I make this call, this would be a strictly 2026 base performance.
I already know what
type
it's
of
going to
call.
be. Are you ready? He's just going to pick fucking like 9-10 or some bullshit like
No,
that.
no,
So
I
get
was
ready.
going
Come on.
Fuzi. I was going Fuzi.
Fuck it, that's even worse.
Yeah.
Sorry, my apologies. I gave you too much credit. Holy fuck. Someone who's been major finals. What do you see? My bad. Let me take that all back and sit back.
No, but we're
How is
talking right now,
Fozzy
aren't
the
we?
5th best opera in the world? Fuck
We're
hell,
talking
come on.
right now, aren't we?
Okay.
Because if you're looking at it stats wise, he's
Okay.
better than Molodoi. In terms of pure rating. Fuzi just joined a new team. He's
True.
been through that wild card roller coaster for how long? He went over to 9 midsummer. He played for 1 month. He wanted to stay, but then wild card called him back. He didn't want to stay, so he was in hell. And then he comes in an Astralis project that, quite frankly, looks like a football manager, but not the team that you are controlling, but one of the other teams in the division, like 5 seasons in.
All right,
With
okay.
Kyousuke, Fuzi, Yabi, Ster, and Ryu, which is the most awkward thing in the world. And then Fuzi goes over and, in my opinion at least, plays a couple very solid events. He started it very
Oh, it's
bad
been
in
good,
Blast,
yeah.
but that was online. Then you're looking at Krakow stage 1. He farms on 127. Krakow, the main event, he's a 113. Now, Cluj was not great for him personally, but I think Cluj was not great for Astralis in general as a team. But when you think about the amount of times that you've seen an Astralis game, one of the few competitive maps that they've played, the few competitive games they've played is when Fuzi's been playing well. And I'm going to keep saying that as a broken record. He's a very balanced oper. He's one of the guys that you can require to do anything for the team, and he's going to do it. He's not limited by being too passive or too aggressive or using only the AWP or using too much AK. No, he's just going to do what the team needs, and he's going to look good. He's skilled. He's not X-Factor extraordinary skilled. A lot of the guys that I would put below him as of right now have a higher ceiling skill-wise than him. But I think in terms of stability, he is, considering how shaky a lot of the other people are, a little bit higher than them, because you just know what you're going to get out of Fuzi. You know what to expect out of the guy. And I think he plays proper Counter-Strike. He barely makes any mistakes. He's got great supportive U2. He's moving around the map. Well, he's just a great teammate to have on the team. And he is putting on some decent numbers. So, I mean, I'm open to ideas onto who's better than him so far this year, who has been better, that we haven't put on the list. I would agree with T and say Wonderful towards the end of last year, but the start of this year for Wonderful has been very underwhelming. So I wouldn't put him. I am open to hearing you out, boys. But I can make, maybe the only other person I can make a case for right now, I guess, maybe to some extent, Jame, because of the amount of success that they've had with Parivision, if you're taking into account the fact that he's also the IGL and not a lot of people are IGLing and still having some decent firepower output. But I think Fuzi's been very, very good this year.
Fuzi's bold. I'm going to put it that way. That's the word I'd like to use here. Bold. Because, wow. Especially when you start talking about how great his numbers were, I was like, am I missing something? And I realized I was missing something. It was stage 1 of Krakow. I hadn't factored that in. Like, I was looking at the stats I had on screen. I pulled them up. I was like, he's not been.
That's the biggest thing against Ted's argument is if you look, he's got to play a lot of whack teams, bro. He's got to farm some fucking bomb-ass teams.
Yeah, he plays.
He never has to play a playoff, you know.
Fnatic, NRG, Gamer Legion. Well, they crushed Gamer Legion. Holy crap. But then, yeah, we've seen more recently, like the last game I had in my mind, which unfortunately for Fuzi was the Aurora game. I'm like, that's a tough one to really move past, because he was absent in a relatively close series. Like they lost 13-7, 13-11, and 13-11. That game's where he went completely like to the bottom. Like he sank. Like that was the deep end, and he struggled entirely, just drowned. So I'd love Fuzi in a lot of ways. I think he's one of those players who has that sort of unnerving, sort of phased confidence where against no matter who he's playing against, he will try things. He will go for big plays. He will just shoot that no scope. You know, he's going to shoot the shots, and that a lot of the time allows him to really break things open. It's just he's not reached the polished like sort of level of tier 1 or play that I quite want yet. He's still a bit messy in a lot of ways. And yes, his confidence is great. I just don't think I have him at 5th. I think he probably does make my top 10 though right now. Thorin, do you have someone else you had in mind for 5?
Yeah, I had two people for this one. One is, I just said it, like 9-10 from Mongols has actually been very good. And you look who he's played as well, it's pretty legit. The two names I was thinking of was either 9-10. This is why I asked if it's 2026 specifically. Like, we can have the wonderfuls of the world if we're going back 6 months. If we're doing only this year, I think 9-10's one, and the other one's Woxic from Aurora for me.
Sure.
Because I actually think Woxic, in much, I'll give the analogy Ted gave with Molodoi versus Shiro. Here's the difference, is I'm not actually as crazy with Woxic about what is the raw number in the HLTV rating. One thing I've always liked about his game is, I do think on LAN, he makes like way more sort of ballsy, decisive plays than most players generally, but AWPers especially. I do think a lot of AWPers in general play a little bit more of a scared game. Woxic, one thing you have to say for him is he is a little bit crazy. He will just go for it, you know. So I value essentially him a little bit more than his numbers. So, but I also think the 9-10 one's not a bad one. By the way, I'll just say it straight up. I absolutely did used to think last year that Senzu was far and away the best player in their team. And I used to think 9-10 was actually a bit overrated. Like, I noticed a lot of big games he would go missing. And the second Senzu left their roster, it's like he got the memo, mate. He's just been fucking smurfing all the games. Like, he's actually had like his career best performances since then, pretty much. So, got to give him credit. He's doing it at the moment.
Yeah, super important is that Na'Vi game that they had to win. Like, that was a must-win game, and he was, phenomenal. Like, that was pretty impressive performance. Obviously great against Bait as well in this event, but of lesser significance for me. I really like the Woxic talk right now. Because it is, the statistics are not there. Like, statistically, he's not been fantastic, like, in terms of overall output.
In reality, I don't think we have AWPers that we can use the stats to back being between 5th and 10th.
We can, 9-10's put up a 114 rating. Like, in pure numbers-wise, that's a fantastic stat line. It's just, Woxic, in terms of style of play, but also in terms of the way he shows up and the games he's showed up for. I distinctly remember watching him in two of the biggest series they played in this event, specifically Na'Vi and then today with the Astralis game. He just lit it up. Like, he really was assertive, creative, fantastic. So, like, I like the Woxic idea. It's just tough to justify the numbers.
Yes.
I kind of liked the Jame play. He leads the world, this level of play in clutches won so far. Like, in very select moments, he's been outstanding. Like, he picks his spot like no one else. But he's done that fantastically. I just think, can we have a guy with sub 0.7 KPR as the 5th best AWPer in the world? Like, he just doesn't kill enough people.
Isn't that half the problem? Okay, here's the problem. If there's anyone the eye test doesn't check out for with their stats, it's fucking Jame, mate. Like, you could literally not, like, by the way, does everyone remember at this recent IEM Krakow, even though fucking BC game went out after like 4 matches or something, they made a 5-minute highlight video of Simple's kills in the tournament on the ESL channel. Like, the joke is, you could take the event Jame won, Blast Bounty, and you couldn't even make a 5-minute highlight clip. Like, it's just hitting off angle shots, re-peeking into a guy who's shooting someone else and shooting inside the head, flanking people, saving all the time. So my problem is the numbers look great, right? If you want to go on pure stats and production, it's excellent. The problem is, though, I just don't think eye test wise, like, if we're talking about like AWPing as like as a skill, you're just not going to get that many like crazy shots from Jim. You know what I mean? They're going to be kind of a bit boring.
Yeah, it's just a high IQ, very consistent play, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of like you're handicapping Jame if you don't let him IGL and you just let him op, right? I think I appreciate the effort and the fact that he's making the op IGL work in 2026, which not a lot of people are bothered to do. But in reality, if we're talking about pure oping, and we go back to the same argument we used about Molotov, for example, and Shiro and all of these guys, if we're talking pure oping, Jame is probably not number 5. If he makes top 10, I still think this is great for him, and he probably does, considering how many very, very unsolid guys there is on this roster. I actually like the Woxic angle a lot. I guess he would have been outside of Fuzi. I think Woxic would have been the other guy that I would have gone for because of the same reason. As far as I'm as much as I'm very impressed with the way that 9-10 has been able to, pick up the slack and become one of the leaders of this Mongol teams when Senzu left, which has been nice to see. I still feel like with Woxic is just the fact that pure oping wise, he's very, very, very sick, right? And he's one of the few AWPers that know how to take proper initiative, I think, in the mid-round. Because early round, he's not going to get a lot of space, but it's normal thing. He's playing on Aurora, right? So there isn't a lot of space. There's like 4, maybe 5 people. Maybe the coach even wants to run in the server before him and get a fight if he can do that, right? So I don't think Woxic gets a lot of these opportunities now, but whenever I watch him play, I think he knows when to take a chance. I know I think he knows when to take initiative, when he needs to go for a wild play, and he's able to still pull off some of these. I think he's always been handicapped maybe by the rifle and sometimes the pistols, even though I think he's always had a decent pistol. But rifle-wise, I don't think he's able to find the same impact. But as a pure OPER, I actually like him. And I think the fact that this team is working, bar, the fact that I wasn't the biggest fan of the Soulfly move in the first place, but not because of Soulfly eventually, but just because of the issues that Aurora had, which I thought had nothing to do with Jota. But Woxic's been solid. He's been very good. Aurora have been playing some all right Counter-Strike. So yeah, I'd back it. I would really back it.
Like you're saying, by the way, I just refuse to believe in his team anyone's microing or telling him what to do. I'm pretty sure he just does whatever he wants every round, and it's all him. Like as you say, the real problem with the Jame angle is he has to be the IGL. In my opinion, that's actually why there's a weird narrative about Jame, that he's been like unfairly treated in his career, and like, why is he not on better teams? I'll tell you the reason he's not on better teams. The same reason Cadian wasn't, because you get fucked on both angles, mate. It's like, if I recruit you have to be the IGL, and then as the IGL you have to AWP. So now I have to ask, like, you either have to be amazing as an IGL because you're not the best AWPers. It's just, you put yourself in a hard spot is the problem, because you're taking too many roles. Also, in this analogy, that's why I like the comparison, because they couldn't be more different eye test wise. Like, Woxic is the guy going for like hero plays, big ball. Like, the joke is Woxic probably thinks he's better than half the fucking people we've got above him on this list. Like, I bet he thinks he can beat them all head to head. Meanwhile, Jame is the guy where even at Sunday five-a-side football, he passes the ball backwards to the keeper. You know what I mean? There's the analogy for you.
And that's why I love Jane, because Sunday five-a-side, I pass it to keeper. I play solid, principled football, but I'm okay with putting Woxic.
I wish my teammates would sometimes just pass to the keeper instead of doing something else, to be fair.
Yeah, trying to roulette in your own 6-yard box, just not the idea. Really is.
And obviously on Nico's five-a-side team, he just has 5 strikers.
Yeah, they just don't have a
and then they just blame the one that plays goalie. Yeah, they go, you fucking idiot, why didn't you say that? He's like, I'm a striker, just shut up, you idiot.
Okay, can we get a quick... I think we should need to speed up some of these. Quick, yay or nay. Sure. 9-10 at 6.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, he's had a fantastic start, even if there's, still some things we need to see. But then after that, Ted, you did put forward Fuzi. That was bold.
If we're only going off this year, don't hate it. But
just off this year.
Yeah. No. I'm talking this year. I'm not talking.
The joke is that sounds like Ted asked ChatGPT who the top 5 AWPers are. Right. Told him there you go. Okay. Got caught slipping.
The one problem I would have, Fuzi over Torji. Do we have anyone who's...
wait a second. Let's take a moratorium for a second. I'm one of the biggest Torzi haters of all time. But you know what? Okay. Is he really worse than Forzi, though? Mate, they even have, like, similarities in their style of play. Like, one thing I'll say about Torzi, by the way, he's another guy that does swing for the fences with all his shots. He goes for every fucking crazy flick op shot. My problem is he just doesn't hit them enough. It's why the reason why I think people like Morrissey's are unbelievable is they go for every shot, but they hit them all, mate. Like, it's actually, like, it's so legit. Whereas the problem with Torji is I do think there's a reason why his team is good but not the best. Like, his problem as an AWPer is he is good but not the best. Like, he's so clearly not the best, and you can see all the flaws. But you also can't ignore he does have a decent flaw to his game, though. It's still a skilled player.
He's had a very Torji year so far as well. Like 113 CT side, 0.97 T side. Like classic Torji stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can't rifle
okay. I'm down for Torji at 7. I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can put Forzi after that, though. You can go after that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a fan of Fuzi, so I'm happy to have him in the top 10. I mean, that's just a question of where. Where's reasonable? After this, we do get back to some of the same old names. Proki, I don't want anywhere near a top 20.
How fucking dare you?
No.
Yes, as I was saying. Otherwise, Wonderful's had a terrible start to the year. Do we give him like that sort of legacy vote? Some pious. There's some people who still desperately cling to the idea that he's a good AWPer right now. I'm not one of them. But if one of you are, I mean, I'm happy to hear you out.
It's very tough. I think he's definitely more impactful than some of the other guys on the list, right? For his specific team. But is he really, much better than them? Probably not. It's difficult to say right now. I think I really want to put Wonderful on there, even though he's one of the lowest rated AWPers since the start of this year.
So are we allowed to do this angle? Like, for example, can some of this be mildly predictive? Because I would bet money Wonderful climbs back up this list.
Keep being that bad.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I would bet he gets back up this list to like 5th or something again, if you give him time.
I agree. If we can do that, I do that. I definitely 100%. Take that angle and put Wonderful number 9.
Okay, I'm happy to put Wonderful 9 too. You know, my 5th AWPer of last year.
It is brutal
Terrible
though,
start,
because
but,
as much as we wanted like 4 episodes ago to make it, that's just because of the rifling and the way that free rating 3.0. It isn't though, boys. Like already, remember this is supposed to be top 10 in the whole world, and we're at like fucking what? Is this like 9 we're on now or something?
Yeah,
like, it's already getting fucking rough, and we're on 9th best. Like fucking hell, mate. This is why people like Donk think they can AWP and Senzu, because they just look at these other guys. They're like, they're all bombs. Like they're not. They're actually the best players in the world. But what can we do? Fucking hell.
Yeah, it's a bit.
Because sadly, this is where people like Jim get into the conversation, because they have to eventually, right? Surely.
And you have to give him credit for his style. Like he does make it work. He does win rounds and games off the back of his own play sometimes, and that's alarming when you look at the eye test, as you've mentioned. But realistically, that one easy free pickoff he found early, and then that other guy he shot in the back, like on a rotation late, that won the round. Like that's quite important. So at 10, yeah, the spot's open. Another case. Let's make a Fozy-esque case for someone else.
Symmetry.
Hypex started the year. He's the only part game vision that works. Only part game vision that's worked so far.
See, I'm willing to agree that he's the only part of Gamer Legion that works, but does that mean he's a top 10 AWPer is my counter question. Because I did have the chance to watch Gamer Legion play lately and cast them. I can agree that he looked better than he did last year. I casted him at the Res Showdown, which was the qualifier for Blast Open Rotterdam, the close qualifier. They beat BC Game, they beat X-Ruby. Hypex played a good event, don't get me wrong. But I still feel like sometimes in important games he's going away. In reality, in that final game against NIP, Rinko was the better AWPer out of the two, and we don't have Rinko on the list as well. I think Hypex has been developing in a better way than
Aurora this year for good reason. So for good reason, Wrinkle's not on this list.
No. I'm kind of taking the piss. But I wouldn't say I am convinced that Hypex is better than everybody else, considering the level of opposition he's been playing. Still, you don't want to talk about the numbers, but they are AWPers in the end of the day. And when I'm looking at Hypex, I still don't feel like he can take over the game against the best. I think he's getting there. Maybe like a projection type of vibe in a couple months, sure. But Gamer Legion in general is a very tough project to judge right now because of all the things that happened in the postseason, the break, where people thought they were leaving, but then they found themselves stuck in the team again. So yeah, I haven't been convinced with Hypex. I mean, he's solid, but hasn't blown my mind. I don't think he's bad.
Okay, just thought I'd mention him just to give him a fair shake, because he has put up good numbers. He is on a team that's everyone around him has just looked dire. Like it's getting worse and worse on Gamer Legion in terms of their results, in terms of their prospects. But
in reality,
he's actually gotten better this year. So I thought I'd give him some credit.
In reality, it should be a conversation between Symmetry and Sampayas, I think. If we're fair, because Symmetry I know is very volatile and he's very young and very green, but he's been playing. He has been playing well, and then Sampayas is very. Because would you put Sizzy in there? No.
I mean, he's got the best pure eye test of the group so far from the demos I've seen.
Like, yeah, but he's played half an event in his career on that.
And like, already I'm more optimistic
he's
already.
He's the 10th best AWPer in the world.
He's already better than Symmetry on an AWP. Symmetry is very smart and effective with a rifle in late rounds.
Sure.
With an AWP, he tries a lot of things. Round of applause, you tried, but he fucking misses it almost every time. So I can't call him the 10th best AWPer in the world. If it was 10th best, as you said before, player who happens to be in the AWP role, maybe there's a conversation because his rifle's effective. But I'm not having it. I'm not having Symmetry at 10. I just can't. He's just not been good enough.
The problem is, I do think Sampayas sadly doesn't live up to his name value, and he still hasn't like fulfilled the role they probably thought he would have in that G2 team. But part of me still does think like he does show flashes though. He does have like a half where you're like, oh, he's still actually a good player. Like, there's something there. Like maybe he can get it back together. So I would say maybe I'm doing it more on the wonderful angle of like, I think he can be on this list in like a few months, At the bottom, though, I don't think there's even any wrong answers. I think once you get past like 8 names, as we showed here, you fucking splitting a penny at the end, aren't you? Like, there's not much to decide between.
Also, it's very difficult for Symmetry, because I do agree, because I've watched the guy so much, but in the end of the day, I think it's probably between Symmetry and Sampayas, because Symmetry in the end of the day is part of one of the best CT side teams on a lot of maps since the start of the year, and that kind of tells you something about the AWPer on the team, even if the rifles are sick. This is actually way tougher than what I thought.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
I'd go for some Pius. I've made up my mind. I'd go for some Pius because of the same reason. I think he can be better. I think he's doing a very good job.
In fact, I'll go one further, Ted. I'll be a hater. Symmetry is the reason why this team that's really good hasn't been in the playoffs, etc. Like, if he'd have actually stepped his shit up, they probably would be like actually mixing up in the playoffs with these people. You know?
Okay. Yeah. The lack of consistency.
So if he really was the 10th best AWPer, then they'd be better. So there you go. So he isn't. There you go. You lose.
All right. Then we go for some Pius. Yeah.
All right, I'd have rather put James here, but here he goes. Some Pius. 10th best AWPer in the world. I mean, Hawker's happy. I don't think anyone else is with that one, but that's fine. He's the only person I've ever had make a case in favor of some Pius as a star in the last year of shows. So there you go,
star.
Hawker. As a good player, as anything, as a player not worth replacing.
Because he's the definition of a support AWPer. The definition.
He's bad. Support AWPer is a very weird kind of slur for just bad. I'm sorry. I refuse to accept any other idea. But yeah, there are 10 AWPers. Some of you in the comments, have your say about the.
I know what the line is. I should have come up with this years ago on a desk, but I didn't. Here's what it is. There's no such thing as support AWPers. There's just bad AWPers that need support. That's a bar right there. That's a bar right there. Write that down, someone. That's a bar right there.
Right. Speaking of Symmetry, we did kind of touch on his team. I mean, Ted tried to make a case for his terrible CT numbers being responsible for Foot's great CT numbers, which I think was an interesting idea to go with.
See, I didn't say he's the only reason. I said that probably tells you that he's doing something right. That's what I said. I didn't say he's the only reason.
Right. In any case, let's go now to talk about Foot, who you've, Ted, have claimed have the best CT numbers in the world, or CT side in the world, essentially, is what you've told me. Let's get into this.
As of right now, we're talking strictly about Mirage, but this is more of an idea that we're building the entire profile of why Foot is one of the best CT side teams in the world, and why in particular, when we're talking about Mirage, they are the #1 CT side team in the world. Now, before we look at some examples, I'm going to give you the pure stats, because maybe some of you want the stats to prove that a statement is valid. So I'll give you that. So in terms of round win rate, 5v4 conversions, they're the best CT side team on Mirage in the world, and they're top 5 in opening kills, multi-kills, 4v5 conversions, and trades. They have 3 players amongst the top 20 highest rated Mirage players of 2026 on LAN so far this year, and their Mirage record is 9-1. And earlier today, conveniently, just before we started recording this episode, they had a 10-2 CT side Mirage against Pyrovision, so we're getting that as well. One of the main things that I like about this Foot team is that they're a very unpleasant team to play against. And by that, what I mean is, this is one of the teams that plays with the highest amount of disrespect in Counter-Strike right now when they are on the CT side. And this is now not limited to a map. This is about all of the maps. We're going to take a look at a bunch of rounds, and we're going to use them to kind of emphasize and explain why this is such a difficult team to play against, and why they're a gimmicky team, and they're very tough to read when they have pistols, when they have a full buy, when they have anything on that CT side. So the first round we're going to take a look at is round number 18 from the game between Foot and Furia, but I believe this was 19. Yep, that's the right one. So we're going to take a look at this one. And one of the important context of this entire round is that in the last couple of rounds before this, we saw them go for double push in towards the palace. We saw them push in towards the ramp. We saw them boost the AWPer in towards the B apartments. And this is happening in consecutive rounds against Furia, which is one of the best teams in the world right now. So what Foot will do this time around is, because in the previous one, they were very aggressive in towards the A-bomb side extremity, and Furia tried to counter with some mid presence, with some presence in towards the B apartments. We can play the round. They're just going to send it in towards under. And this is a very key round, by the way, as we're going into it. It's a very key round because, as you can see, Foot are playing for a reset. They're 8-9 down against Furia. It's a very important round. What they call is something that is very risky. What they call is something that could lose them the map or can win them the map. And this is the part of the character of this team that I like a lot. You have the double under push. You have the push in towards the B apartments. Regardless of Kisarato getting the opening kill, he's going to get refragged. The push comes in. they refract everything, and now we can pause for a second. This is where it is actually very smart what type of a setup FUT are running. So you have nameplate Counter-Strike. Both the connector and the A guy are playing in towards that jungle area when you have the double push under and one guy being boosted on B. The guy being boosted on B signalizes, okay, they started 2B, they started 2 under, there's going to be a solo A guy. So it's a very normal reaction out of Fury to try and search out of Palace and potentially look in towards CT spawn or in towards connector for someone. They've left the side, they've left ticket, they group up in towards jungle, you walk out of Palace, you're being held by 2 rifles in jungle that are strictly focused on Palace, expecting that reaction. So what that round tells us, and obviously FUT are going to win the round, but what that round tells us is that that FUT is a team that's willing to take chances. They're willing to go aggressive in consecutive rounds against some of the best teams in the world, and they have a very good idea on how to play off of each other and how to give space in a selective manner and then punish their opponents. And until the end of the round, it's a 4 versus 2. It's very difficult for Furia to really do anything with this one, and in the end of the day, FUT will be able to close it. Now, the next one we're going to take a look at, again, has a pretty similar purpose. It's actually the following round, which is round 19 from that Mirage against Furia. They know the money on the side of Furia is going to be a little bit lower, so they don't go in towards middle. And now the one thing that we're going to take a look at as the round progresses a little bit is that they're going to start feeling a little bit uncomfortable. 135, 130 on the clock. You've not seen anything. The connector player is not spotting anyone crossing in towards short. You're not hearing anything in towards B and towards A, but you in reality have no control in towards middle. They can try to boost in window. They can be up short now. And on the timing, what these guys are going to do, which is an absolutely ludicrous play, is they're going to nade ramp and just push with 2 people behind the nade without giving away their position. A player takes first point of contact, setting up the window player of Symmetry, who's going to make in this round for a great double kill. And with a little bit of proactiveness in this round, FUT are going to be able to bail themselves out of a tough spot where they have no map control. They had no idea what was going on in terms of information, but it's just that small play in the middle of the round that bails them out of a very, very tough spot. And these are the rounds that we're going to take a look at on Mirage. We're going to have one overpass one in a second, but I think this is the best way to showcase the character that this team has, and the reason that they've been able to catch a lot of these world-class teams off guard is because they're fearless, is because they're playing up in your face. And in terms of the level of cohesion, I wouldn't say it's random. I'd say they're all on the same page, which also makes it very efficient.
Yeah, the fact that they're always in at least a pair. Like, they don't ever do like little one-up plays, like just a one guy looking. Even if you go for like a sort of ramp clear info play, a lot of teams throw one guy at it and a flashbang. You know, not really a full-on commit. And they will very quickly and very often commit to putting multiple players in that sort of position. Sure, it's a gamble, but it's something we used to see a lot from 3D Max in a more extreme and less effective way, where it's like we kind of make a stand. Like, here, we find the info, we find the right sort of play, we find the fight, we decide the round here. So be it if we don't win. Like, so be it. We're going to just commit to our ideas and whole-ass everything. And yeah, we saw there, it's incredibly effective against Furia, who are, you know, in that round with just I think Moldo was on an AWP and there was very little else to actually go around. They're frustrated by a lack of info. And because that goes both ways, FUT then actually probe, actually go searching. And yeah, they end up making the right gamble in this exact context. But if there wasn't anyone there, they still get the info for free. They don't take a fight. They don't lose the players. They can make a quick rotation. That's why you see them flanking very quickly a lot of the time. You see them set up in these very advantageous situations because they love to make these grouped up info / just decisive plays. Like, they do group up for them, though. That is very important.
This is why I want to see them play a playoff match on a stage, though, because right now that's the part where I have to be cynical and think it'll be a lot harder for them to make this style work. Because at the moment, like, they're actually living the dream of every tier 2 online team of like, wait a minute, these games we play in scrims or online against the top teams are real, and we actually can do this. Like, it's not fake. And then we get to the line and we're doing it still in the group stage against pretty much all of them. Like, if you look, the only times they even lose series, they're all like nail biter close series like this, where they lose 13-10, 13-11 overtime. time. So like those are the moments you should be losing when you're inexperienced. But the problem is, as every tier 2 online player and team has had to discover, is when you go onto that stage and it's a playoff match and you play any relevant team, though, that's where they can exploit somebody. Like, will you really be as cohesive? Will you be as ballsy and decisive? Will you pull the trigger? If you can, by the way, you're going to be a revelation in Counter-Strike, and it's going to be one thing. The joke is you're actually going to have been the sleeper storyline of the year. Like, everyone thinks from the beginning of the year, Paravision's the story of the year. This team could actually overtake them. Like, this team has mad potential, but you also have to actually, like, one, do it on stage, and two, you got to win some of these games. You can't have a million like, oh, I was close. It's like, you got to get some of those wins too. You got to get them over the line, you know.
Yeah, you really need to, right? And I feel like in this mouse game, there was a very good example that even Yanko brought up on Overpass, where
Yes.
they were setting up for a B play, and then a bunch of people make a couple steps and they give it away. And that doesn't show you that these guys don't know what they're doing, but it's probably under the pressure. You just slip and you forget about something, you make an extra step, you're trying to rush a little bit. It's just little micro mistakes from some of the individuals, I would say, not even gaps in the game plan that are stopping them right now from closing some of the games. But this is why it's going to be very interesting to see how they do in playoffs.
Yeah, playoffs, which, well, they just missed. But that's something we'll see at the next event, because they did just go down 2-1 to Paravision. That ever so crowded top 10 revealing itself. No matter how excited we are for a team, it is kind of tough to make yourself felt and actually make those playoffs. Shout out Mouse one time. Let's get into that example, though. Against Mouse, Overpass,
Sure.
round 3, I believe you said.
Now, this is this round is because what we're looking at, because Foot is on an eco round with a bunch of Deagos, a 5-7 and a USP. Now, the reason I actually find teams like Foot to be incredibly difficult to play against is because they're a nightmare when it comes down to the skill of the individuals and some of the BS that they can pull off on pistol rounds or on ecos. And I don't want to be, the guy to delve again into the stats and everything, but I will just say that they were the second best pistol round team in Cluj, and they are one of the most dangerous teams when it comes down to ecos and half bites in general. So we're going to use this round just to emphasize on the way that these guys with a little bit of creativity, especially when they're playing against a team like Mouse that is trying to default in these types of rounds and fill the map, can upset you a little bit. The round is going to start, and we're going to see how good Foot are at giving themselves opportunities to steal away rounds like these if the team on the other side is caught sleeping and just spreads around and tries to control the map. Goal number 1, boost and see if there's anyone out short. We don't see anyone. There's a late nade coming out of Monster. It's an anti-eco with presence middle. What does that mean? Probably that there's a solo holder on B. So what do? We push short. We don't see anyone. We do the boost in towards short, the triple boost, and boom. First player in towards Monster is going to be dead in a second. What do Mouse do in that sense? They try to control middle. They have a solo player in towards long who gets double peaked as they leave toilets, they leave banana, and from that point on, you're working with a 5 versus 3. And I guess I don't need to spoil it for you. They will be able to close out the round from that point on, bar that kill out of exertion. The CTs are still winning the round. It's all about the way that they're setting themselves up and the way that you can clearly tell if you're a tier 1 team and you're playing against these guys. You always need to be aware of the potential of a gimmicky play, which is not something that you're probably used to. And this is why these teams are always so exciting when they enter the tier 1 space to watch, right? Because they will be going for some of these plays that you will see on Faceit sometimes, right? Let's triple boost short on an eco round. Let's just go double long and peak on the timing if he's walked out after our guys got the kill on B and so one guy. They're just taking chances and they're trying to be creative, which is something that I like. And just to add to the amount of, diversity that we see on the CT side, on that same overpass against Mouse on the CT side, they had rounds where they had a 4-man A fountain fight. They had a double con short pressure with one more on A. They had a triple monster push, and these are all buy rounds. They had a monster push into playground at a minute left, and they had a long push into playground at 120, where they had a player basically entering T-spawn at 120 on a full buy round for Mouse. So this is just a team that gives you no respect. They give you no opportunities. And that's what I like out of Foot. I feel like it's a very punishing style. Obviously, it's difficult to replicate, and I suspect that with time they will need to evolve because teams like Mouse don't really need to play you 20 times to learn how to counter that stuff, right? But it's nice to know that you have at least the first number on them. You know how to potentially beat them. And then if you're able to make your playbook a little bit deeper with time, maybe in a couple of months, you can actually be competitive when you're playing them every single time and not just the one-off game.
I think you also have to be actually a little bit more like gambly and decisive when you're a newer team too, because if you think about it, it's one of the reasons why, unfortunately, I actually had this sneaking suspicion a Paravision type team will just beat them with experience, because when you have those players that know how to exploit younger players, it's exactly sort of decision making where the fall down's going to happen, isn't it? So I think at the moment, by the way, they're playing the perfect style for them. Like, it looks fucking great. It's just working awesome at it.
Yeah, pretty much everyone on the team can hit the shots as well, and we see like. This isn't their ceiling. Like, they couldn't play better. And in a lot of games, they've managed to bring it to overtime. They then struggled with, they've kind of looked desperate. Like, I remember some of the overpass rounds I've seen from this team, especially because they've had multiple overpass overtimes in this event, where it's just like Crab and he's just trying something. He's just desperately needs a win. He tries to just throw himself out somewhere. He tries to find a gap that doesn't exist. Gets punished. He got punished trying to find a long gap against Furia because Furia know what they're doing. They know they've left that open when they do a two-man push towards the fountain. They rotate back, they just pick him off, and yeah, they're still not quite fully matured in that sense into Tier 1 play, but they are really threatening, and the fact that they are already communicating at a very high level, making these sorts of plays so cohesively, shows that the potential's real. And if we just see that next level team.
Yeah, I think they're just the CT side team. It's just the T sides have been handicapping them big time. I mean, you can even tell on this map. Just look at the streak. They get a 9-3 CT side, then they get 3 rounds in a row to start the T side. They win the pistol, they win second, they win third, and then they just lose every single buy round until the end, and the game goes overtime. And they lose in OT. It's just
that's how you know they've got skilled players for me. Like, they do their work on CT side on LAN against the best teams in the world. That's legit as fuck. Yeah.
No, it is. It absolutely is, and that's why I think it's just more of a matter of let's get the experience and make sure that we have a deeper playbook on the T side, so we don't make a lot of silly decisions and we don't give away silly fights. And it's also the fact that maybe in Tier 2 Counter-Strike, if you get a 12-3 lead and you're on the T side of Overpass, you can just start playing on full W and going for individual fights. You will brute force your way to the end of this game, right? You'll close it. You get the one round. When you're playing against teams like Furia, Mouse, Vitality, Falcons, these guys can punish you if you just start giving them individual fights, because they're warming up the same time as you're cooling off, even though you've got 12 rounds already, which I think has been an issue. But this is a team that is a decent T side away from being able to close games against these teams right now.
Yeah, very close to greatness and very impressive, honestly. Just some of these individuals. The conversation has been for a long time is like, will Foot stick together? Like, or will their pieces get plucked off? I think the fact that we've like the way we've seen them play at these events, I think to me is clear that like if someone wanted like Demon and Jugs, they're going to make a move at some point this season or in the next off season. I think those are the two we really have to keep an eye out for in terms of getting picked up. Lance has also been very impressive. It's just
Oh, I'll tell you the thing with him that even blew my mind, because I think of how many years he's been around. He's only like 20 now or something insane.
Yeah, he's one of those very young players.
Yeah, in your brain, you think he must be like 25 or something. No, he's actually still mad young now. He was probably written off unfairly as a result.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, it's difficult. It's like, was he written off unfairly? Was it just not his moment? And he needed to just be in Tier 2 again, and that's just the right place for him to be. I think that was more my take as well, was just like, he has to be back down in Tier 2, Tier 3, grinding, finding the right team, the right blend, the right roles, because he's gone through a variety of different phases. So yeah, hopefully Foot can figure that all out, and
I just want to give a shout out. You know what? I actually think most of that, like Twitter, like, oh, you got to bang it, I think most of those tweets are shit. It's just morons hitting an imaginary heart button thinking they did something. But actually, Darth Mike, broadcaster extraordinaire, had a banger on Twitter where he did say, and I think this sums up their whole team to me. He said, call me Quentin Tarantino, because Foot have got my attention. Now that's a bar. That's a bar right there. We salute you. Well done.
Yeah. Shout out Mike one time.
Yes.
Oh, well, apparently, yeah. I was going to follow up with something. I'm just going to keep it for myself. That was very bad. Yeah.
Right.
All right. We'll leave it there. Thank you all for tuning in. Yeah. No live stream this time. It just didn't make sense in terms of the schedule and the way things worked out. But yeah. Leave a comment to us your thoughts on any of these picks, takes, our top 10. I'm sure that'll be controversial to some. And yeah, that's all for this one. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.